रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् ब्रह्मरूपमादिमध्य शेष सर्वभासकम् भावशब्दहीनरूपनित्यसत्तमद्वयम् भङ्गनातिगोचरञ्च नेति नेति भावितम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् सर्वजीवपापनाशकारणं भवेश्वरम् श्रीदिगञ्च गर्भभासदेहवासमीदृशम् यापितं च लीलया च ज्ञानदेव्यजीवनम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् तुल्ययोश्च काञ्चरञ्च हे अनेयाभिगतम् श्रीशुनित्यमातृभावशक्तिरूपभावकम् ज्ञानभक्तिमुक्तिशुद्धबुद्धिदायकम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् सर्वधर्मगम्यमूलसत्यतत्त्वदेशकम् सिद्ध सर्वसम्प्रदाय सम्प्रदायवर्जितम् सर्वशास्त्रमर्मदर्शि सर्वविघ्नरक्षरम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् पञ्चवर्षबालभावयुक्तहंसरूपिणम् सर्वलोकरञ्जनं भवाद्रिसङ्गभञ्जनम् शान्तिशोकसद्मजीवजन्मभीतिनाशनम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् धर्महारहारकम् धर्मकर्म कारकम् लोकधर्मचारणञ्च सर्वधर्मकोविदम् त्यागि गेहि सेव्य नित्यपावनं कृपङ्कजम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम्।
me start with a chant. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning and namaste, everybody, and welcome back to this session. And I'm so glad, again, let me express my thanks to the Vedanta Center of Greater Austin for organizing this event. And also a special thanks to the United Methodist Church for giving us this beautiful space. We have been using it last year I think, and the year before last, and this year again we have been using it. And it's a very beautiful facility. It's convenient, it's close to the ashram, it's also the spiritual vibration of the church. That's very important for subjects like this. And thanks to the wonderful team of volunteers, both here in the church and the Vedanta Center volunteers who are all around helping us. So this morning's session is based on the Bhagavad Gita, but the general idea is this. Swami Vivekananda said, Vedanta, he said, is these two things, the divinity within us and the oneness of all existence. So two very profound themes. The divinity within us. We think we are mortal, biological, mechanical, economic creatures. All that is true at one level. But it's also, spirituality tells us, informs us that we are godly, we are divine, we are spiritual. So the divinity within us, that's one important theme of Vedanta, which Vedanta calls Atman, which Vedanta teaches as Tattvamasi, you are that. Also the oneness of all existence. This entire existence, entire universe, all beings, all human beings, all sentient beings, and the entire universe is one with you. What does this mean and how do we understand it? That will be this morning's theme. And there's another aspect of Vedanta Vivekananda talks about, the manifestation of the divinity within us. Vivekananda's famous definition of religion. Religion is the manifestation of the divinity within us. And the kids in India memorize it. But this manifestation of the divinity within us, that will be the third theme today. That will be in the second session. How do we live this realization? How do we live this philosophy? How do we cash it in to our benefit and the benefit of everybody else around us? So these three themes, that what divinity within us, what does it mean? And the oneness of all existence, what does it mean in a Vedantic context? And finally, how do you live it? How do you really manifest this philosophy? For that, I am drawing upon the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, we know, if there's one text you want to refer to, not only for Vedanta, for all of Hinduism, it would be the Bhagavad Gita. If somebody asks you, give me one book, it would naturally be the Bhagavad Gita. Upanishads, we know, are the sources of Vedanta. But the Bhagavad Gita is another source of Vedanta, and it is based on the Upanishads. It's the teachings of Krishna to Arjuna. And the third main text being the Brahma Sutras. So we'll concentrate on the Bhagavad Gita this morning. 700 verses divided into 18 chapters. One way of understanding the Bhagavad Gita, the 18 chapters, is you can divide it into three groups of 6 chapters each. First group of 6 chapters, chapters 1 to 6. The second group of 6 chapters, chapters 7 to 12. And the third group of 6 chapters, chapters 13 to 18. In the first, so this way of looking at the Bhagavad Gita, who says it? For example, famously one great master in the medieval period, Madhusudan Saraswati. So he says, in the first 6 chapters, the theme of the first 6 chapters, the broad theme, there are many, many, many things in the first 6 chapters. But the broad theme is, who am I? What are we? In Tattvamasi, that thou art, you are that. The first 6 chapters are concerned with the real nature of I. Who am I? In Vivekananda's terms, the divinity within us. So that's the first 6 chapters. The second 6 chapters is about Tat Tvamasi, you are that, so that, God, the reality behind this cosmos. So this next 6 chapters from 7 to 12 are primarily concerned with bhakti, devotion, worship, faith, what is God, the glories of God, and so on. I think one of the, at least poetically, the climax of the Bhagavad Gita is the 11th chapter, which comes in this group. The 11th chapter, when Arjuna says, I understand what you have taught, I believe it, but I want to see. I want to see. And Krishna obliges. Krishna shows him what is called the Vishwarupa, the cosmic form of Krishna. 11th chapter, Vishwarupa Darshana. But the strange result was, Arjuna was terrified. He asked for it, but he was terrified. He says, I don't want to see, at the end of the chapter. Take it back. I want to see you as a human being again, in that form. That chapter, for example, inspired Oppenheimer so much. There was a cinema recently about life of Oppenheimer. Those who have read the life of Oppenheimer, you'll see he was very fond of the Bhagavad Gita. He actually learned Sanskrit to read the Bhagavad Gita. And after when he saw the first explosion of the first atomic bomb, and he quoted from the Bhagavad Gita. The verses he quoted are from the 11th chapter. That awesome vision which Arjuna has of the cosmic form of God. I am come time, the destroyer of worlds. Or it is like 1,000 suns rising in the sky at once. So, of course, Oppenheimer meant the atomic bomb explosion. Now, at the end of the 12th chapter, so those 6 chapters from chapter 7 to 12, it is about devotion, worship of God. In the 13th chapter, which is the last 6 chapters, begin with the 13th chapter, Krishna brings them together. Tat Tvamasi, you are that. The divinity within us and the oneness of all existence. It's the same thing. And he brings it together in the 13th chapter. So I'm going to draw on the 13th chapter. We're going to look at a few verses from the 13th chapter in this session and in the next session. For what? For understanding the divinity within us and the oneness of all existence and how to manifest it in life, some practices. So first, the 13th chapter is a little odd because there is a little doubt about the number of verses there. So there is one verse at the very beginning. If you count that verse, then today we're going to talk about verses 2 and 3. Or if you do not count that verse, the verse at the very beginning, which is a question posed by Arjuna to Krishna, and some scholars say that has been added later. So either you start with that verse, and then we will talk about verses 2 and 3. If you leave that question out, Prakriti Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajnam Evacha Etad Veditum Ichchami Jnanam Geyam Cha Keshava. Arjuna asks, O Krishna, I want to know about material nature and consciousness, the field and the knower of the field. What is to be known and what is knowledge? These I want to know. And this is basically a description of the topics in this chapter. So some people say it was just a put together question to introduce the chapter. Sometimes you'll see the 13th chapter in some editions of Bhagavad Gita begins with this question, number 1. And then Krishna's answer as number 2, 3 and so on. If you don't have this question, then Krishna's answer starts straight away. That will be verses 1 and 2. That's why I'm just putting it out there. What I'm going to talk about are 2 verses from Krishna's answer. The first 2 verses of Krishna's answer. Okay, here goes. So Krishna says, the original verses are Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Lord spake thus. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram ityabhidhiyate etadyo vetti tam prahu kshetrajya iti tadvidaha. What does it mean? Krishna says, O Arjuna, this body that you experience, this body is called the field. And the one who experiences the field from within, that's you, I. That one is called the knower of the field. So the field and the field knower, that's the name of the chapter. Kshetra Kshetrajna, field and field knower. Thus say then those who know this subject. Kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. Those who are masters of Vedanta, they say this, that the body, consider it as the field, label it. Here's the body, label it as the field. And you, the one who experiences the body from within, the embodied one, the person, the sentient being, the jiva, that's called the knower of the field. So let's go a little deep into this. This is the beginning of Vedanta. You see, in the Vedantic inquiry into who am I, what is all this, it has two parts. One is called Atma Vichara, self-inquiry, inquiry into who am I. And at the end of that, we discover we are this witness consciousness. I am awareness. I am not what I thought I was. I am not just this body. I am not just this mind. I am not just this person. I am this impersonal witness consciousness, which is something that we saw day before yesterday and yesterday also. And then next the question remains that, all right, I am the witness consciousness, but what's all this? What is its relation to me? So Atma Anatma Vichara, self and not self, inquiry into self and not self. Once we appreciate what the self is, still the question remains, what's my relationship with others? What's my relationship to this material world, which is admittedly not the self? But still, what's the relationship? So self and not self, here the new names given are field and knower of the field. Field, not the self. Knower of the field is the self. Again, take it in a very simple way. I am the self, I am, and I am the knower of the field. And Krishna is telling me this body is, just call it the field. Fair enough, I'll call it the field. So what does it mean? Krishna here hands us the key to the first stage of Vedanta, the self-inquiry. And the key is this, the operating principle. What you know, that's not you. Whatever is known is an object. The knower is the subject. And the subject and object are different. The knower and the known are different. The seer and the seen are different. They're separate. So this is the key. And by the way, this is the amazing paradoxical thing about Advaita Vedanta. And this is the key. On this we will proceed. And after having proceeded and come to the end of our inquiries and discovering this wonderful thing, I am pure consciousness, we will take back, we will retract this principle. Because if you're listening carefully, you will note immediately. The knower and the known are separate. The seer and the seen are separate. In that case, it's not oneness. Did you not say the oneness of all existence? If they're separate, how can it be one then? So that will come later. But first, we will use this separation. You'll have to switch off the mobile phones. First, we will use this separation. Whatever you know is different from you. So we know this world, and nobody thinks that I am these things. I know the table, by which I mean I can see the table or touch it, and thereby I know it's something different from me. This chair I'm sitting on, it's an object and something different from me. I don't think I'm a chair. I know the chair, but I'm not a chair. But when it comes to the body, there it becomes interesting. Because I do know the body. And yet I hesitate to say I am not the body. I behave as if I were the body. I talk as if I were the body. I think as if I were the body. And here is this principle. Yes, in some sense I know I'm not literally the body. It's my body maybe, but so it becomes a little difficult. I can say I am not the shirt. I'm very confident. I can say it's my shirt, but that doesn't make it me. But this body is, it's paradoxical. It's at the limit, at the boundaries, liminal, so it can be this side or that side. I am the body in a certain sense. And also I understand if you say you're not the body, I also understand in some sense I'm not the body. It also feels like the body is a thing and I am the experiencer. And that's what Krishna says. Consider the body to be kshetra, field. And you are, as you yourself will admit, the experiencer of the body. And through the body you experience the world. We experience the world. We see, hear, smell, taste, touch, all through the body. So, Krishna wants us to see that the body cannot literally be us, we. The body is an object. Just like the seer and the seen. I see this piece of cloth. And to see this piece of cloth, the cloth must be at a distance from my eye. It must be different from my eyes. The only thing that the eyes cannot see are the eyes themselves. Notice, you can see everything there. Whatever can be seen by the eyes, those you can see. And the eyes too also, you should be able to see it. They are like any other object. And yet you cannot see the eyes with these eyes. You might say, Swami, have you heard of a mirror? Or kids today might say, Swami, have you heard of a selfie? But what do you see in the mirror? You see a reflection of the eyes. The way the eyes directly see these things. The eyes are seeing this directly. That way the eyes cannot directly see themselves. You can reflect yourself back and then the eyes can see it. You can take a picture, a selfie, and then the eyes can see it. But directly the eyes cannot see themselves. The seer cannot see itself. This is a principle in philosophy. This is a principle in grammar also. Something cannot act on itself. The knife cannot cut itself. Self-reflexivity is not allowed. Seer and seen are different. Now notice the body. The body is an object. I can see it. I can touch it. I can taste it. I can smell it. I can even hear it. My tummy is rumbling. I'm hungry. So the body is an object to all the five senses. It is clearly an object, and I am the experiencer, the subject. Subject and object are different. Seer and the seen are different. Hence, whatever I am, wherever I am, I do feel I am here in this body. All of us feel that. But I am not literally the body. I often mention this doctor who wrote to me from England. He said that I have been taking scans of the human body for decades. It's only just now that I had an epiphany. I felt this thing, what I'm looking at in the scan, inside the body, it's a machine. It's a biological machine. It's a thing. It's not me. Or the way he put it was, where am I in all of this? Where am I? I feel I'm here, and yet nothing corresponds to me. It's a thing. It's an object. Now go a little deeper. Then I feel I am here. Where am I? Well, somewhere here I'm an embodied being. Just by the way, when he uses the term field, the whole universe is the field. But specially Krishna says, idam shariram, this body. The reason being, our confusion starts with this body. I'm not confused about the shirt. You're not confused about the glasses you are wearing. You know they are not me. But about the body, our confusion starts. So it starts with the body. Consider the body to be the field. And there are other reasons why the body is called the field. Because this is the field where the seeds of our karma sprout. Our past karma, they give results to us, good and bad, pleasant and unpleasant, what we call our lives. And where do you experience it? You experience it in and through the body. In the body and through the body. So that's a field in that sense also, the field of karma. It's also interesting, this is being taught in Kurukshetra, the battlefield. And in the whole teaching starts, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetra, in the field of Dharma. So this body is the field. Now I am here. Remember, this is an inquiry into who am I? I am here. What's here inwards in this body? One traditional way of inquiry would be, look at what is evident in this body, life. It's not just a body, it's a living body. And the most clearest indication of life for us is breathing. So prana. Prana is much more than breathing. Breathing is just the epiphenomenon or side effect or byproduct of prana, living being. But it's the one which is most evident and easy for us to catch. So the prana. Am I the prana? But equally the prana is also observed. It is an object. Don't we observe the breathing during our meditation sessions? Mindfulness meditation. What do they say? Observe the breath at the nose, in breath and out breath. But the point there is, what are they saying? Observe it. If you can observe it, it's an object. It's a thing. Just like the body is a thing, the breath is also a thing. It's not me. It is the seen. I am the seer of the breath. What's subtler than the breath and still here? Remember, I am here, so I'm still searching for myself. If I'm not the body, I'm not the breath. What's happening here is making our attention more and more subtle and inwards. That's all that's going on. From the world to the body. Krishna already did that. Body is the field. Now from the body to the breath. Somebody might ask, hey, wait a minute, Krishna just talked about the body. Now why are you talking about the breath? Remember, Krishna said, Yo Vetti, the one who knows this. I'm using that principle. If you know it, you are not it. So I know the body, I am not the body. I know the breath, means I can experience the breath. Therefore, I am not the breath. The breath is there. It's a good idea to keep the breath, keep breathing. But I am not the breath, literally. I am not this pumping action of the lungs or what's going on in the respiratory system. Subtler than the breath, inward to the breath. Inward in what sense? So these words have to be understood carefully. We throw them around in Vedanta all the time, but they have to be carefully defined. By inward, I don't mean physically inward. If you go physically inward into the body, you will find what? More body. The more liquid, sticky, gooey, obnoxious part of the body, you will find it inside. I mean in our lived experience, in your conscious experience now. Subtler than the body is the breath. Subtler than the breath, look inwards. You will find the mind. Thoughts, ideas, memories, sensations, judgments, sense of ego. All of this, what I consider the mind. Most people stop here. Most educated, thinking people think of themselves as minds, as embodied minds. Mind in a body. That's what we call a personality. That's what we call a person. You're a thinking, feeling, understanding, desiring, enjoying, suffering, being embodied in a physical body. That's what we think. Most human beings think of ourselves as like that. But the mind itself is an object. If you look at the mind, you will notice that you are aware of the mind. Thoughts? Are you not aware of your thoughts? Pain. You can try to pinch immediately. Yes, I'm aware of it. So if you are aware of pain, if you are aware of pleasure, then those are objects. You cannot be the pain or the pleasure. If we are aware of thoughts, if we are aware of memories, if we are aware of desires and frustrations, and then we cannot be those. Those are there, but they are objects. I am the one which is aware of them. Notice that. In that case, I am not even the mind. And Vedanta will make a further subdivision of the mind, the higher mind, what we call the intellect. For example, what we are using just now to understand all this. That in Vedanta it is very precisely defined. The intellect is defined as the determinative capacity. The Sanskrit definition of intellect is Nishchayatmika Antakarana Vritti Buddhi. So that function of the mind, of that inner instrument, which gives us knowledge, the cognitive function. So that is the intellect. But that also, on the point being, I am aware of that also. I am aware of understanding something, I am aware of not understanding something, I am aware of trying to understand something and then getting the aha moment, I got it. The eureka moment. I was reading recently, again, not relevant but funny. The Archimedes, I think, Eureka. One little fact about Archimedes I didn't know. You know the story when he was thinking about volume and mass and the displacement of water when he was taking a bath. He hated taking baths. Luckily someone forced him to, and then he got to make the breakthrough. So it's good to take a bath. But that understanding, that also is an object. I am aware of my intellect not understanding, and now I am aware of the intellect understanding. So intellect is also an object. It's not that I am not intelligent. I am not intelligence itself. I am not saying that we are dumb. Intelligence is there, but I am not that thing itself. It's a function of the mind. It's a capacity of the mind. I am the witness of the intelligence also. What about the ego? Finally we come to it. The ego, the sense of I, it's always there. I am sitting here, I am talking here, I am listening here, I am trying to understand here. This I. This is defined in Vedanta as Abhimanatmika antakarana vritti, ahankara. Ego is the appropriating function of the mind. That function of the mind which takes up every other function in the mind, in the prana, in the body, and says, I am sitting here. I am this person, Sarvapriyananda. I am thinking here. I am speaking here. That I. That's called the ego. That's what we think we are. I am that. But again notice, Krishna says, etadyo vetti. The one who is aware of this. If you are aware of it, it's not you. Are you aware of the ego? Oh yes. Especially when I'm annoyed, when I'm insulted, ego rears up its hood like a snake. I am aware of myself. I am aware of the ego. If I am aware of the ego, I am not the ego. I am not the ego. Greg Good, who is a psychologist in New York, he uses this nice technique he developed. I'll show you. To locate yourself. Inquiry into who am I is fine, but let's just find it physically. Where is this I? It's a nice exercise. So what you do for this is, you draw an imaginary line through your waist, parallel to the ground. Now let me ask you the question. I, just think of I am, I. Where, if I were to force you to say, tell me, is that I am, can you locate it below your waist or above your waist? Is it in the knees or in your ankle or somewhere above the waist? I think everybody would say, I feel I'm above here, somewhere. If you want a location, I'm everywhere on all the body, but I'm above. I'm somewhere here. All right. Draw one more line parallel to the ground through the chest. Now I, the sense of I, is it above or below? Again, most people will say, look in, you'll say, I'm above somewhere. Now draw one more line parallel to the ground. Would you say the sense of I am, in your own case, feel it? Is it below? What does it feel natural? Or above? Some people might say I am is here. But others will say I am is here, somewhere in the head. I feel I am here. And it's very natural why you would feel I am here. Consider the number of sense organs in the head. The eyes and the tongue and the face. Everything is very, very full of nerve endings. And the ears and the nose. It's all here. And then we have been taught brain generates consciousness. So the brain is in there. And so somehow I must be in there somewhere. So I feel I am here. Now Greg Good doesn't let us go. He's persistent. All right, so you are here somewhere. Inside. Inside, yes, inside. Now draw two more lines. One vertical like this, one vertical like this. Dividing the skull into three parts. This side, this side, this side. In between. Where do you feel you are? Do you feel I am here or somewhere in between? Most people would say I am here somewhere behind the eyes. Somewhere here behind the eyes. If you force me to choose. If you force me to choose a location, I would say most likely I feel I am there somewhere. I am here. Now the crucial question. Alright, supposing you are there. You're there or not there, that doesn't matter much. But notice something. If I am there, follow this carefully. If I am there behind the eyes somewhere, just inside the skull, I am there, I locate myself there. But I am aware of that. If you are aware of the I, the ego behind the eye, somewhere in the skull, what is it that is aware of it? What is it that is aware of the location of the eye? What is it that is aware of the ego, the I, psychologically speaking? And that which is aware of the I and the I there, of these two, which one would you identify with? You are the one who is aware of the I. So I am aware of myself. But then the one I am aware of, the I, which is located, suppose, behind the eyes, it's an object then. Idam yo vetti. One who knows something. You are not that something. You are not even the ego. Did you follow that? And it's a nice exercise to follow it experientially, a bit like yesterday. Experiential understanding. So the ego also can be located, psychologically speaking. You don't start scanning now. I've found the ego behind the eyes. Doctor, can you do a brain scan and locate that ego? No. Even the All spiritual paths say you have to transcend the ego, you have to go beyond the ego. So I can locate it there and tell the doctor to take out the ego, then I will be enlightened. You will never find it that way. But this is transcending the ego, knowing that I am not the ego. Even the ego is something that I am aware of. If I should choose to do that, I operate through the ego all the time. I'm walking, talking, and I'm operating through the ego. But if I choose to isolate the ego, it becomes an object. I am that which is aware of the ego. Therefore, I am not the ego. Now see where we are. I am not the body, I am not the breath, I am not the mind, memory, emotions, the perceptions. I am not the intellect, I am not even the ego. This is literally the first line, which, by the way, the choir did a beautiful job yesterday and today also. Wonderful hymns. Yesterday they sang the 6 stanzas of Nirvana. The first line of that, Mano buddhya ahankara chittani naham. This is exactly, till now, whatever we have done is that first line. I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the memory, I am not the ego. Why? We need to bring in Krishna here. Etad yo vetti, the one who knows this, is different from it. So you, the knower of the field, what is the field now? Whatever you know, starting with the body. The body is the field. The prana is the field, the vital forces. The mind and memories and, whatever you call the subconscious, the traces, that's the field. Sensory perceptions, that's the field. The intellect, understanding, knowledge, that's the field. The ego is the field. And I am the witness of that, all of that. The non-object, not a thing, but the knower, not the known, the subject, the seer, that I. That you can never isolate and make it an object. The philosopher Hume, David Hume, he says, when I search for this thing, so-called thing called the self, I do not find anything. If I look inside, I find a parade, a procession of perceptions, judgments, memories, desires, but I find nothing corresponding to the self. That's because you're looking in the wrong place. You're looking into the object, and the self is not an object. It's the one which knows the objects. Etad yo vetti. Then what do we end up with? 2 things. One thing is certain, that the self does exist. I am. And the self is certainly light, awareness. Because I'm aware. I'm aware of the body. I'm aware of the field. The kshetragya, knower of the field, 2 things we know about it already. It exists. And it is the knower. That means it must be consciousness or awareness. This is called Sat and Chit. So this is the real nature of the knower of the field, kshetragya. So the knower of the field is pure consciousness. This is called Sakshi, witness consciousness. Because it illumines the mind and the prana and the body, and through this body it illumines the whole world. This Sakshi I am. Now technically, for those who have studied Vedanta, 2 meanings of the word kshetragya, knower of the field, 2 meanings. There's something called the direct meaning and something called the implied meaning. What is called the direct meaning? The mukhyartha. And implied meaning, lakshyartha. The direct meaning of the word kshetragya, knower of the field, is jiva, sentient being. Just us, without doing all this analysis. Just you and I, we are the knower of the field. I am the knower of the field, just as I know myself, without doing any kind of Vedantic analysis. But if I take Krishna seriously, the one who knows this, etad yo vetti, if I try to find the knower, the seer, then I end up with awareness, witness consciousness. So the 2 meanings of the term kshetragya, knower of the field, is first meaning, straightforward meaning, jiva, sentient being, yes, us. Second meaning, witness consciousness, sakshi. Those who have studied Vedanta in a traditional way, they will realize this is what is called Tvam Padartha Shodhana, the inquiry into the term you. You are that, Tattvamasi. So what is the meaning of you? This is the inquiry, to find out the real meaning. The apparent meaning of the word you is you, me. That's who I am. Real meaning, inquire. How will you inquire? Using the key provided by Krishna. The key is Etad yo vetti, the one who knows this. And if you take that seriously, whatever I know, I am not. I am the one who knows. And that's what we also common sense we think about ourselves, but we don't look carefully at it. If you look carefully at it, an amazing thing will be revealed to you. You are not a material body, though the body is there. You are not even life itself, though prana is there. You are not even mind and intelligence and even ego, though those are there. You are the witness of all of them. And then you use all of them. You shine upon them and then they do their work. But you are not them, no more than I'm speaking to you through the microphone, but I am not the microphone. You're looking at me through the help of the light, the electric light, but you are not the electricity. You are the witness of all of that, the consciousness behind it. So this is the first theme today, the divinity within us, or our divine nature. It's not that the divinity within us, I am this fellow and there is one divinity within me. I am that divine nature. What is that divine nature? Awareness. Being awareness, existence awareness, Sat Chit, I am that. That's the meaning of knower of the field, that you are. That any conscious being is that. Any sentient being is that. All human beings, whether they're interested in Vedanta or not, all living beings. One scholar used to debate with a monk in the Himalayas. The scholar was a confirmed dualist and the monk was a non-dualist. And so this scholar goes to the monk and says, Mahatma ji, aap jo bhi boliye, dvait satya hai. Whatever you say, O monk, duality is real. Then the monk replied, I'll translate in Hindi, he said, अरे अपने आप को पंडित कहता है तो द्वैत सत्य है बोल रहा है, ये तो गौ भी जानती है कि द्वैत सत्य है. आप पंडित हो तो कुछ नई बात बताओ. You call yourself a pandit, a scholar. But even that yonder cow knows that duality is real. I am separate from the grass and I need to put the grass in my mouth. So even the cow knows. Every living being operates in duality. They know duality is there. But you call yourself a scholar. You tell me something new. This is a unique way of approaching non-duality because duality is a fact everybody knows. You don't need philosophy to understand that. If you're really a philosopher, a scholar, tell me new. What's new? Non-duality. I love that saying. The opposite of an ordinary truth is falsehood. The opposite of a petty truth is falsehood. The opposite of a great truth is another great truth. So the opposite of duality is non-duality. Both are true in a certain sense. Anyway, so this is the meaning of the divinity within us. Why would you call it divine? Notice, all mortality, change, disease is at the level of the body and the prana. Hunger and thirst at the level of the prana. Disease also at the level of the prana. All unhappiness, sense of limitation, anger, malice, negativity, and also pleasure and all of that at the level of the mind. All ignorance and relative knowledge at the level of the intellect. But pure consciousness is free of all of these. This is one reason why you are calling it divinity. It's beyond the limitations of material nature. It is spirit itself. But there is a second reason. The second reason is this. When you say divinity, the word divinity, Vivekananda uses the term manifestation of divinity. There are two aspects of it. One is this knowledge. Oh, I am not body-mind. And therefore I am not subject to the limitations. Body will die. But I, the witness consciousness, I will be the witness of the death of the body. I will not die. Oh, the mind can go through ups and downs. But I am the witness of the mind. I am the knower of the mind. I do not go through ups and downs when the mind goes through ups and downs. One spiritual master, he pointed out very nicely. Driving that windscreen wiper is there. Very funny way he pointed out. See, what is our condition? Suppose you are learning how to drive. And your teacher tells you, keep your eye on the road. And it starts raining and the windscreen wiper comes on. And you are driving and the windscreen wiper goes like this and you go. And the driving teacher says, stop it, keep your eye on the road. Okay, that's going. The windscreen wiper is the mind. I am consciousness. But I identify myself so much with this. No, you should be able to see, let the mind do its thing, but you should be, I am the witness of the coming and going of the mind. But I don't come and go with the mind. So this distinction. I am the witness, so that is in that sense divine, yes. But there is a second sense to the divinity. It must be manifest in my life, in the mind and the body, in my life in the world. Through this field, it must become a wonderful field full of, vegetables and flowers and stuff like that, yielding. It must manifest its potential. So I must express that love, that selflessness, that control over the body-mind, those what we call saintly qualities, the qualities of a Jivan Mukta, qualities of an enlightened person, that must come. The field must bear fruit. There's a very beautiful song to Kali in Bengali, which Sri Ramakrishna also was fond of. Monre Krishi Kad Janona. Oh my mind, you don't know agriculture. Such a beautiful field the Lord has given you and remains barren. What is the beautiful field? Human life. If you knew how to cultivate it, it would have yielded gold. Pholto Shona would have yielded gold. Oh my mind, you don't know farming. You have ruined this life, the chance of a lifetime. This wonderful field of human life remains barren. And then of course he goes on, the very beautiful song. Guru Datta Bij, the Guru has given you the seed, the mantra. If you had planted it and cultivated it with discipline and patience and focus, you would have yielded gold in your life. You would have become a saint, you would have become enlightened. So that is the manifestation of the divinity. Divinity is two sides. Realizing I am the witness consciousness. I am beyond death, beyond the ups and downs of the mind. That itself is a great thing. And that's what I call a paradigm shift between the literal meaning of the word knower of the field and the implied meaning of the word knower of the field, the term knower of the field, and witness consciousness. But there is an ethical manifestation. The field must flower. That is also divinity, manifestation of divinity. That one we will take up in the second session. But now, a question remains. The question is this. No, a little later, we have time. The question is this. The question is, all right, just a minute, hold on. I am the witness consciousness. I am not the body, not the mind. But there are so many persons here. How many witness consciousnesses? I think it was Heisenberg who said consciousness is that singular which has no plural. Or Schrödinger, I don't know, one of them. Schrödinger maybe. How many witness consciousness are there? There are maybe 300 people here. 300 witness consciousnesses? Or is it one? Today I read a news report. The world population will stabilize at 10.5 billion at the end of this century. But it will sort of plateau there. So will there be 10.5 billion witness consciousnesses? Or if you include all the animals and living beings, 100 billion, trillion witness consciousnesses? Or one? That's one question. It arises because we have investigated this body and mind and found one witness consciousness. As you see yourself, you will see others also. That's an important insight. If you think of yourself as a body, you think of others as bodies. If we think of ourselves as persons, as most of us do, you think of others as persons. If you realize yourself to be the witness consciousness with a personality and a body, you will realize that others are also the knower of the field, the witness consciousness, with a personality and a body. You will realize that. So when we realize that, we will ask how many are there? And the second thing we want to know is, this is supposed to be about religion. You haven't mentioned God at all here. Where is God? Is God the knower of the field or the field? If the God is a field, then God becomes an object, different from us, a thing. But if God is the knower of the field, then I am the knower of the field. But if you say God is the knower of the field, then I and God become one. Both seem improbable. Am I God? Doesn't feel like it. So what is the answer to these two questions? How many knowers of the field? And what about God? So the second verse which Krishna says to Arjuna, he answers both of these questions in the second verse. In fact, in the first line of the second verse, he goes, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetra jnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. Very profound verse. He says, I am the knower of the field in all these fields, O Arjuna. And this knowledge of the identity of field and field knower is knowledge according to me, is real knowledge according to me. Now, this is a tremendous verse. In one sentence, he answers both questions. How many knowers of the field are there? How many consciousnesses? He says one. And what about God? I, God, am that one consciousness in all living beings. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Know me, Krishna says, to be the knower of the field in all fields. Krishna is speaking here as an avatar of God, of Ishvara, Bhagavan. So that one consciousness associated with all these fields, one knower of the field associated with all the fields, is what Vedanta considers to be God. And that one knower of the field, when you dismiss the fields, I will talk about it later, that's what Vedanta considers to be Nirguna Brahman, the Absolute. So in association with the cosmos, that same limitless consciousness becomes the God of religion, whom we worship and have faith in. In association with the tiny part of this cosmos, this body, that limitless consciousness now appears as individual beings. But in itself, that limitless consciousness is Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, the Absolute, the featureless, attributeless Absolute. So this is a grand vision. The first insight was also dramatic. What you know, you are not that. And that led us to the understanding, I am pure consciousness. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I am consciousness in bliss. But the second insight is tremendous. It has two parts. One is, all consciousnesses are one consciousness. They are not different consciousnesses. Bodies are different. Minds are also different. But behind both mind and body is, illumining both mind and body, is one consciousness, shining in and through so many. And something further, tremendous. Notice how we have gone. We have used this, whatever you know is different from you. So you used it to leverage this difference between me, the knower, and body-mind. That was the first result. The second result came when me, the knower, is the same in all bodies and minds. Krishna says, I am one consciousness. Here itself, a lot of argument can be there. And there is. The Sankhyans take their stand here. They say, no, wait a minute. We are all different bodies and minds, and we are different consciousnesses. This is called in Sanskrit Bahupurushavada, many consciousnesses. And Advaita says, no, consciousnesses cannot be many. There are no consciousnesses. It's a monstrosity, the term. There's only one consciousness, one light, appearing to be many in association with many bodies and minds. Krishna himself says this in the Bhagavad Gita. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. Undivided in all sentient beings, I appear as if divided. I am one. I appear as if 8 billion or 10 billion at the end of the century, or hundreds of billions if you take all living beings into account. That was the vision which Arjuna had in the 11th chapter. When he said, show me the cosmic form. What did he see actually? What scared him so much? So what he saw was this. We see this cosmos also, but we see it in pieces, bits and pieces. Right now we are seeing this hall. You go out of this, you will see the outside, but you won't see this. Right now we are seeing 10:50 a.m. on this day, 13th of July. We are not seeing the past, it's a memory, vague, fading. We are not seeing the future, it's imagination, it's not here. But suppose, and we are seeing maybe 300 people here. We are not seeing 8 billion people and the hundreds of billions of living beings living now. Forget the ones who lived in the past. But suppose, just suppose, if you were to see the entire cosmos, the entire universe, all time, all space, all living beings in this time past or who will come in the future, all of them together at once. That would be the Vishwarupa Darshana which Arjuna had. And it will be mind-blowing. Literally, 1,000 suns rising in the sky together. Arjuna says, every hair of my body is standing on its end. Where when I see this, my heart quakes, my hand and feet tremble. He says the whole earth as if it is trembling. He sees it as one being, the cosmic being. There is a sociologist who actually, he says the reason why people are scared of public speaking. Some people have asked me, aren't you scared of speaking in public? Why people are scared of speaking in public? One reason is, he gives a sociological reason, actually based on biology also. He says, in the animal kingdom, staring is a sign of aggression. Do you see two dogs who stare at each other and then they start growling? Either one will run away or they will fight. And if you stare at a dog continuously, it will look up at you, it will try to look away and again look up at you. Either it will growl at you or it will quietly go away with its tail between its legs. So fight or flight reaction is there. So staring is a sign of aggression and it triggers that feeling within us of anxiety and fear. This person is going to be aggressive with me. Now imagine one person staring continuously at you makes you uncomfortable. If 300 people are staring at you. And so that sociologist, he said, one reason is that's what, especially new speakers who are starting off, they immediately feel nervous because you suddenly see all of these people staring. They're not aggressive, they're not trying to attack you. You just want to listen to what you want to say. But that's the intellectual part of the brain. The animal part of the brain reacts with fear, anxiety, uneasiness. You can't attack them. You can't fly away also. Fight or flight. So now you stand there and you are scared. And you forget what you had to say. But if it's just 300 people, imagine if it's a larger audience. The biggest audience I've ever faced, actually live audience, is 14,000 people. That was in Belur Math. And I was just saying today or yesterday, even that's not the toughest audience I faced. The toughest audience I faced was about 300 monks. All my seniors. I was a junior monk. But imagine what Arjuna saw. He saw not 300 people, not 14,000 people. Imagine if all 8 billion people in the world get together in one. And all living beings, from whales to mosquitoes, they all get together. And all the gods in the heaven and demons in hell, they all get together in one towering being. And then turns around and looks at you. He would faint. He would probably die or something. And Arjuna was made of sterner stuff. He quaked. So that is the cosmic being. That is the idea of God in Vedanta. One consciousness in association with all bodies, all minds, all intellects in one being, which we are seeing fractionally here. But that consciousness in itself, now the next part of it comes. Yes, I am one consciousness. But then that still remains, the question remains, what about the non-material universe? What about the physical, the stars and planets? What about the field of battle, Kurukshetra? What about all these swords and arrows and chariots and whatnot? This world, this material universe which is surrounding us. I am one non-material consciousness, that's fine. But what about all this? And Krishna says, Yattaj Jnanam, Kshetra Kshetra, it's hidden there. The commentators say, this is the meaning which is expressed by Tat Tvam Asi, you are that. This non-material universe is an appearance, as much as a dream is an appearance. The dream world is an appearance in your dream. This non-material universe is an appearance in that limitless consciousness. It does not constitute a separate reality. See, now we are taking it back. Whatever you know is separate from you. Now we are taking it back. Yes, you are separate from what you know, but that which you know is not separate from you. One sadhu put it beautifully. See, there is a subtle point here. What I am saying is this. One sadhu put it beautifully. He said, दृष्टा तो दृश्य से अलग है, सो तो ठीक है महात्मा जी, लेकिन आपने कभी सोचा है कि यह दृश्य दृष्टा से अलग है? You, the seer, you are distinct from what you see, like Krishna told you. That's correct. But what you see, the world you experience, is it distinct from you? Is it separate from you? Have you ever thought of that? So what do you mean? If I am separate from something, that will be separate from me. So here's this body. I am separate from the lamp. The lamp is separate from me. How? What does it mean? But think about your dreams. What you see in the dream, whomever you saw in the dream, whatever happened in the dream, you, the dreamer, are separate from it in the sense that you were there before the dream came and you will be there after the dream goes away. You are separate from it. You are not part of it. But that dream world is not separate from you. It does not exist like the lamp separately. It exists only in your dream. The moment you stop dreaming, the dream world is of that dream. It's gone. Exactly like that, the claim is this material universe is an appearance in consciousness. It's a very profound doctrine. It's only now that modern knowledge is coming to grips with this question. On one hand is quantum mechanics, which has brought the observer in at the tiniest scales of the universe. On the other hand is the difficulty of explaining why the Big Bang took place. There is another aspect to it, is the difficulty of explaining how brain gives rise to consciousness. It doesn't. It's impossible to explain. All of this bringing into question, what is the relationship between consciousness and matter? The Vedanta's answer is, matter is the dream of consciousness. Matter is an appearance in consciousness. It is not a countable second apart from consciousness. Therefore, non-duality. Non-duality of what? Non-duality of consciousness. We really haven't taken back what Krishna said. You still remain apart from that, what you know, but what you know is an appearance. Appearance of what? Of you. You appear to yourself as your world. It's not a separate thing. This is the final conclusion of Krishna, the final understanding of who or what we are. We are pure, limitless consciousness, appearing as this universe and these bodies and these minds, and then interacting with each other very much like a dream. Very much like a city in a mirror. Mirror being limitless consciousness. Very much like a dream. Dream and city in a mirror, these are examples. Don't go looking for glass. Where is the mirror? I have to find the mirror. Not like that. You are the mirror. So this is the meaning of the divinity within ourselves and the oneness of all existence. The divinity within ourselves and the oneness of all existence. This last bit, you saw I hurried through it. This is what is called Mahavakya Vichara, an inquiry into the great statement, Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. A little technical note here for those who have studied Vedanta. The oneness of consciousness is directly experienceable. It does not require much maneuvering. But the oneness of consciousness in the material universe is indirect. How? What do I mean by direct and indirect? There are two terms here in classical, the Vedantic analysis of Tattvamasi. One is called Mukhya Samanadhikarana. And the other one is called Badha Samanadhikarana. Mukhya Samanadhikarana means, the word Samanadhikarana means same ground or same basis. The sky within a pot and the sky, the vast sky, space outside the vast sky and the space within a pot. They are the same space literally. And it's not difficult to understand. Because the space within a pot is actually not within a pot. The pot is within space. If we say the space outside and the space in this hall, and people measure how many square feet and all, but the space is not in this hall. We have built a hall enclosing some space. Isn't it true? And this space doesn't remain within the hall. You know, this hall is moving. As the earth is rotating, the hall is moving at a great speed. Luckily, we don't know about it, otherwise we'll all get motion sickness. And the earth is spinning around the sun, revolving around the sun. There also that movement is there. And the sun with its planets is zooming around the galaxy, and the galaxy is zooming around the universe. So a tremendous movement is going on. Now tell me, as this hall moves through space along with the earth, is this space being carried on with the hall, or is the hall moving through space? Okay, let me show you something. Here is a bottle of water. There is water, and there is a little bit of air, and of course, this thing, there is space here in this bottle. There's a certain amount of space in the bottle. Part of it is filled with water, part of it is by air. When I move this bottle, it's screwed tight. When I move this bottle like this, is the water moving with the bottle? You don't seem confident. Yes. Otherwise, it would be a big mess. If I move the bottle and the water stayed here, it would become a wet mess here. Luckily, when the bottle moves, the water moves with it. And the air, you see, if it's screwed tight, the air will also move along with the bottle. But the space which is enclosed in this plastic bottle, is the space moving with the bottle, or is the bottle moving through space? Bottle is moving through space. Many people are confused. Some people argue with me, no, let me think a little more about it. I think space is also moving. No, it isn't. Space does not move with you. Don't really enclose space. You can enclose water, you can enclose anything else, even air, but not space. In fact, space is unchangeable. It is there. I know Einstein would differ, but we are leaving that stuff out. It's just common sense way. So the bottle is moving through space. It does not take space with it. So when I say the space so-called in the bottle and the space outside, they are one and the same space, it's easy to understand. Yes, it is the same space. But if I say the space and the bottle are the same thing, it's a little difficult. In the classical Sanskrit example, the space and the clay pot are the same thing. The clay pot is not a second reality apart from space. That's difficult to understand. Why? And then they will go through the whole thing. From space emerged air, from air came fire, fire came water, from water came earth. One form of earth is that clay out of which the pot has been made. Basically it is space. And that is the old cosmology. This is called Badha Samanadhikaranyam. That means the pot is an appearance in space. In that sense, it is space appearing as a pot. That might not seem so convincing, but it's much more convincing when you think of what is this material universe after all, except as an appearance in you, the consciousness. At this point, someone will say, no, it exists outside your you see it in your consciousness, but you the consciousness, experience it, but it exists apart from you. I've given this example many times. This camera reminded me of our senior most member, Bill, who's a physicist. He says, Swami, that's not right. Material universe exists apart from you, the consciousness, and I'll prove it to you. We'll put up a camera in this room, and then we'll all leave this room. And when we come back, we will see the picture in the camera showing this room is existing. No conscious being was there. It's not that the room exists only in consciousness. A room exists by itself, and you as a conscious being, you come and see it. This is a common sense view. My answer to him was, think about it. It's an enigmatic answer, but it's very, very subtle and simple also. I said, Bill, in your consciousness, you propose this experiment. In you, the consciousness, or in your consciousness, you set up the camera. In your consciousness, in your awareness, we all left the room. It's in your awareness that you experienced all of us coming back into the room. In your awareness, you opened the camera and saw the picture of the empty room. In your awareness. At which point did you leave your awareness? When you say the room is existing without any awareness or consciousness, that also you're saying in awareness, in consciousness. Try to understand this in terms of the dream. In the dream, if somebody says, you're walking around in the church is there, the grounds outside, the highway outside, sky and clouds and cars, and all of that. If somebody says, this is a dream, what do you mean? Well, it is all mind. It's all mind. And then we reply, no, you're mistaken. You have a mind and I have a mind, but the sky and the hall and the building, they are outside the mind. They are all separate from us. And you see them in your mind. But when you wake up, what will be true? That person who said it was all mind is true. What appeared to be a living being with mind, what appeared to be a building and a sky and rocks and cars and roads, they are all nothing but projections in a mind. This is called Bada Samanadikaranyam. It is all awareness, just seems to be an object. So now we end up with non-duality. This is called the oneness of all existence. Let's have a few questions. Then we will go on to the third theme. How do you manifest this divinity? How do you manifest this oneness? How do you live with this knowledge? There are microphones here. If somebody wants to ask a question, you can come up here. There will be one microphone on the left side and one on the... This is gone. Hello? 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 Okay.
Namaste, Swamiji. My name is Shankara. When I listen to talks and read books, I get this calm and the spiritual journey. I would say even of late, in the past few years, I'm able to even help others who are in trouble. But what I tend to find is when I am in the thick of it in the moment, I'm not reacting, responding the right way. I mean, it's getting better, but it's not as fast as it gets or as fast as it.
Right. I understand your question. A serious answer to that question will be in the second session. How do you cash in this knowledge? How do you make it manifest? That's why Vivekananda's word of manifestation of the divinity, which has two sides to it, the paradigm shift and the ethical manifestation. Both are necessary. And you are saying that, yeah, I understand it. In some sense, the paradigm shift is working, but the ethical manifestation, living spirituality, that is not working too well. So I'll talk about that in the second one. What are the practices which can strengthen and manifest this knowledge? By the way, to the extent that you are doing this, that already is progress. Please sit. One Swami is there, very humorous. He teaches Vedanta in a very humorous way. He's called the Smiling Swami, Anubhavananda Saraswati. He's also very interesting. He's a wandering Swami. Traditionally in India, you had Swamis who wandered from village to village and taught spirituality. Here he is in the modern 21st century version of his. He wanders all over the world. He has no ashram. Wherever he is, that he says, that's my ashram. When he came to our ashram, somebody, a volunteer there asked, so where is your ashram, Swami? And he said, here. And all his work, he has some principles. Like all his work, he finishes off every day. He says 24-hour 0-0 balance. He starts the next day with no work, nothing left over to do. At night, he finishes everything, done for the day. And then next day is new. Anyway, he made a very interesting point, his incisive point. He says many times, devotees, spiritual seekers have this question. I am not progressing enough. My mind reacts negatively in so many situations. In meditation, my mind is restless. When there's tough situations at work or in family, I get very upset. I react like that same old person. Why the quality of my reactions, my thinking, my feeling has not changed in accordance with my knowledge, with my spiritual practice? He says this itself is a sign of development. Why? He said, "आप सोचो आप कहाँ बैठे हो? Where are you sitting? What do you mean? If you are busy with the world, why did that person say something like that? Why did that person behave so badly with me? Why are some people so... Sometimes questions are like this. Why are some people... If everything is consciousness, Brahman, why are some people so bad? So I'm worried about the world. I'm worried about people. That's one category. The second category of questions is, if this is true, why I am unable to change my behavior? Why I am unable to spiritualize my mind, my reactions? He says the second one is much better. The first one is you are concerned with the world. We are other people. His exact words were, Man ka kaam hai jagat ko dekhna. Sakshi ka kaam hai man ko dekhna. If you are worried about the world, you are sitting in the mind, in the personality. If you are worried about the non-spirituality of the mind, you are sitting at the witness consciousness. It's far better to sit as the witness consciousness. And so your focus is more on the mind, not on the other people. Why my reactions have not changed, which is good, sign of progress.
Namaste, Swami. My name is Sri. I'll make a couple of short statements and then I'll ask you a question. So, I think about trying to understand the world, what certain statements we make, like we draw a picture of the globe, we say east and west, right? But obviously it's a globe, there is no east or west, so that's a lie.
Yes.
Right? So, we say what's the time now in New York, and in conventional wisdom we say it's plus 1 hour, but it's always a now. It's anyway, even in Pluto it's just now.
Yes.
So there are these statements we make, right? I'll give you one more example. Let's say both of us go to a party and you take your favorite sweet, laddu. You put the laddu on your tongue and you say, Sriram, it's sweet. And I take another laddu and I put it in my tongue and I say, yes, Swami, it's sweet. But the sweetness in your tongue, it's your experience, it's your truth. Sweetness is my tongue, it's my experience, it's my truth. But somehow by just by convention, we use the word sweet and we equated both those limited truths to be equal to each other. Right? So these are kind of some observations and statements I'm making. Now my question is this considered mananam? Is this helping me in spirituality, or is it just like I'm just loitering around and wishing?
No, it's helping you. It's helping you. What you're trying to do is, you see what is called convenient fiction. A good deal of what we take to be truth in the world is actually convenient fiction. So as you say, time. It's a convenient fiction. It's not a lie, it's a convenient fiction. It's time zones, a convenient fiction. Direction, left, right. What is left and right for me is not what is left and right for you. You're facing me. So these are convenient fictions. And most of our relative life, what is called Maya, is a convenient fiction like that. It works, but it's not real.
Right, an objective sense in truth, right? Objectivity in science, right?
Convenient
fiction, because a bunch of people subjectively agreeing on the experiment and the experimental results is equated to objectivity. The subject is always there.
Yes, and remember, not to...
Objective science is just a bunch of subjective experience and equal to therefore it's objective, right? So that's another line, right? So that's all I see.
Yes. Even in science, that's not to run down science, but to show how science works.
Right.
And it works. It works. It's practically it works. I remember, just because you mentioned this, I was studying Madhyamaka Buddhism, which a great, one of the most renowned scholars today in the Western world, Professor J. Garfield. And then I had to run to a book launch. The name of the book is Why Should We Trust Science? And it was being launched at the Harvard Science Department. So I told the professor, I'm running, I have to go and listen to this talk. Why should we trust science? And the professor said something interesting. He said, well, it better not be because we tell you to trust science. And yet that's what it was. He knew it would be that. So when I went there, the scientist said, most people think we trust science because of experiments. But she said, I'm a geologist. I haven't done any experiments. The practical reason why we trust science is our studies and results and theories are vetted by a community of experts, peer reviewed. And then we publish it. And it becomes part of scientific knowledge. It passes peer review. But that's just a community of experts. That's exactly what the professor said. Because we tell you to trust science, you should trust science. I mean, it's not silly. That's probably the only way we produce knowledge. But it's interesting to see how it works. All right. Tell us your name and ask the question.
In your talks, you talk about different schools of philosophy who have concluded different meanings out of the Vishnu. Today, you talked about Sankhya and their thought of multiple witness consciousness. I'm assuming in all these schools there are enlightened masters. How come their conclusions are different?
Yes, this is a good question. And Sri Ramakrishna is the best answer to this. He says, he gives different answers. One is the nature of the infinite. Because it is the infinite, you realize some aspect of it in some way. And then you base your theory of the infinite, of the ultimate reality in that way. So you call it God or Rama or Krishna or Father in heaven in different ways. Not that they are wrong, They are all so he says another way, he says, you have all touched the elephant. The old story of the 5 blind men touching the. So someone thought it was a pillar, someone thought it's like a big fan, he touched the ear, someone thought it's like a rope, he touched the tail, someone thought it's like a pipe, he touched the trunk. Now, one sense they are all right, and they have all actually touched the elephant. So the great mystics, masters of the world, who actually experience God, and they have experienced God, they are all correct. But the way they express it is different because of having experienced some aspect of the infinite. Another way he says is, which goes back to the Rig Veda. When you express it in language, it will become different. So theory, language, theology, these are all products of the human intellect. So you are already conditioning your realization through that. This is what the Rig Veda says, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is one, the wise speak of it differently. And that's why from most ancient times in India, this was understood, that there can be multiple readings, multiple interpretations, multiple experiences even of the same truth. And all those are valid, as long as they are valid mystical experiences. So Sri Ramakrishna extends that to all the major religions of the world. So for a Hindu, it's perfectly alright being a Christian, it's perfectly alright being a Jew or a Muslim, or even a Buddhist who denies the existence of the Hindu God. So capacious is the infinite. Sri Ramakrishna's words, that reality, he says he is also infinite and the paths to that are also infinite. So that's why. Yes.
Namaste Swamiji, my name is Saurabh. So I wrote down a question because I wanted to be precise. So it is clear to me that the awareness that I am is reflected in my experiences of the body, mind, and external world. For example, I'm aware when the body is hungry, and similarly when a thought arises in the mind. When awareness is not reflected by any object, how can it be made apparent? The answer may be that the nature of awareness is self-luminous and does not require the existence of an object to be evident. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yes, that's a very subtle question. The question is, how do we, this consciousness or awareness, how do we experience it? Well, we are experiencing it now. We are experiencing with the help of the body, mind and senses. Here's the body, and I feel conscious. Here is the senses, I see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and I feel conscious. And here is the mind, I think, I understand, I enjoy, I suffer, I desire, I hate, and I feel conscious. So what does the mind and the senses and the body do? They manifest this consciousness. Now he's asking, without the body, the mind and the senses, how would you ever experience consciousness? What is the implication of this question? In that case, your so-called pure consciousness, Atman, Brahman, is entirely dependent on a material existence. Even the mind is matter according to Vedanta. So for its manifestation, it's dependent on the material existence. Now this is the position of Sankhya. Sankhya says ultimately there is a duality. The duality of consciousness and object. Spirit and matter. Purusha and Prakriti. What does consciousness do for matter? What does matter do for consciousness? What does the spirit do for the material universe? What does subject or consciousness do for the object? And what does the object do for consciousness? The consciousness illumines the object. Without consciousness, nothing would be known. Nothing would be known. In Sanskrit, this is called Jagad Andhya Prasanga, the darkness of the universe. Nothing would ever be known without consciousness. But what does the material universe do for consciousness? Material universe manifests consciousness. When a bunch of rocks, comet, tumbles into this solar system, it's dark. But as sunlight falls upon it and it begins to melt and develop a tail behind it, and we see sunlight reflected on it, then we can see the brilliant comet. So what does sunlight do for the comet? It illumines the comet. But what does comet do for sunlight? This is a subtler question. It manifests the already existing light in dark space. Without the comet, that place would look dark. But light is there. Sunlight is streaming through space. There is nothing to reflect that sunlight. The sunlight becomes manifested when the comet passes through it. The comet becomes illumined when it passes through light. Right now, what is all this light doing? It is illumining this cloth. What is this cloth? Because it's illumining all of us. If these lights were all switched off, we'll all be plunged into darkness. But we are also doing something for that light. We are manifesting that light. See, we are reflecting it. I sometimes do it when there is a PowerPoint projection with those projectors. So there's a strong beam of light, and it doesn't look like that unless you thrust your hand into that. Then you see a hand glare with shining, blazing white. Otherwise, it looks like just ordinary air, space. When you put the hand in there, it shines. So what does the light do for the hand? It illumines the light. What does the hand do for that light? It manifests the existing light. Okay. That's what Sankhya says. Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha illumines, is responsible for all experience, and Prakriti is responsible for manifesting the Purusha, giving Purusha experience. It's responsible for all action, matter, energy, all of that. Now what does Advaita say? Advaita says, good so far. But now you ask the question, this matter, this body, these senses, this brain, this mind, what are they in relation to consciousness? They are nothing but consciousness, according to Advaita Vedanta, just like in your dream. So, just as the dream is manifest by the objects in the dream, which are all products of the dreamer's mind. Similarly, that's the statement that's the position of Advaita Vedanta. Even this material universe is you, the consciousness. And so, you illumine this material universe, and the material universe manifests you, the consciousness, but you are not depending on anything outside yourself. It is your own glory. That's the direct answer. There is a subtler answer. A subtler answer, this is one great Advaitin, Atmananda Krishna Menon. He lived in Kerala in the 1950s, 60s, he passed away, I think. So he makes this point. Those who think that consciousness depends on object for its manifestation have not understood consciousness. Consciousness does not even depend on object for man. The object manifestation of consciousness is of one kind, very easily understood and grasped. But those who understand what pure consciousness is, you notice it is complete in itself and does not need a second. This requires Vedantic meditation. It seems like nothing without the something. But you drop the something, that nothing will look, that Shunya will also look like Purna to you. Yeah. It's a very subtle question though.
Hello, so my name is Shumon, I'm from the San Francisco area. I had a question. So when I dissect into those 5 sheets of my body, and for a fraction of a second I reach that blankness, I'm aware of the blankness, and then I think, oh, I'm aware of that awareness, and then I think I'm aware of that awareness.
Yeah.
It just keeps going back somewhere else.
No, it doesn't go back. I am aware of that blankness. Now when I think I am aware of the blankness, I'm already thinking. That thinking can be regressive. But all these thoughts, the blankness, total blankness, is illumined by me. Otherwise I couldn't even later speak of a total blankness. And then if I think, oh, I am aware of the blankness, that's a thought. That also is illumined by me. So there the chain of thought stops. Don't go back to thought. That's the mind's trick. The mind says, look, there's all these nice things. No, I'm going to be spiritual, I will not look. Oh. And it's blank, nothing. I am the witness. Oh, Swami said I'm witness of blankness. So the mind will say, so you are the witness of blankness. You should say to the mind at that point, keep quiet. I don't need you to tell me that I am the witness of blankness. If you let the mind kick in, it will start a chain of thoughts.
My name is Kalash. Expanding on what was said earlier about time not being real, like if you take this, all we have is this moment, and then how wide is that moment? Is it a second, is it a millisecond, femtosecond, picosecond, whatever? It goes down to infinitely to zero, which means there is no time. Or I saw a great conversation between Bernardo Kostrup and Rupert Spira where they figure out that single finite mind's Because the question I have is, does the Jivan Mukta flip between timeless and spaceless and being in this material plane?
No, don't add. Remember your question and don't add to the line. We'll give you a chance next time because we are running out of time. So time is unreal, but we are running out of time.
So, I guess the question is, does the Jivan Mukta flip between timeless, spaceless, and then being in the material plane? What is that?
Yes. Jivan Mukta flips in one sense, you're right. The Jivan Mukta has the ability to do that. Can function in our paradigm very easily. Jivan Mukta can do that even better than us. And can snap out of our paradigm into the timeless, spaceless, one existence awareness, which they know to be real. These are not two parallel realities. They are not two aspects of the same reality. They are not. The reality is the timeless, spaceless, limitless existence consciousness place. And this is an appearance of that. So, if you ask the Jivan Mukta, what are you? I'm this guy. Really? Tell me the truth. What do you know yourself? You say, oh really? I am Brahman. So both they can function. And that's the key to their ability to transcend worldly sufferings and problems. They seem to be quite otherworldly because they do have this perspective of limitlessness which we don't have. There's this funny story of the idealist. Bishop Berkeley is a subjective idealist in Western philosophy. So the story is that he goes to Johnson. And Johnson is, of course, very commonsensical, a realist. And they argue whether it's the whole universe in the mind, is time real or not. And Johnson says, of course it is real. And Berkeley argues that time is not real, it's entirely subjective. And then finally, Berkeley says, I have to leave to catch the local train, which apparently left by Johnson's time, not by Berkeley's time. Yes. Speak into the microphone, yes.
Pranam, my name is Aditya. Vedanta says non-duality. On the Gospel of Ramakrishna, Kavan says, once one understands himself or knows the Gyan, he sees everything other as same, like living reality. And he uses the word Gyan and Vigyan. My question is this whole thing just a mind play? Are we in a dream? Like how you today discussed ocean when you thought, okay, in the dream, when we woke up, everything is unknown. So when Thakur says Gyan and Vigyan, once we goes ahead, is this Vigyan the Maya? Is the Maya?
No. All right, I understand what you're trying to say. Sri Ramakrishna's view is more expansive than the classical non-dualist position. So Sri Ramakrishna fully approves of the dualistic position, Vishishtadvaitic position, and the classical non-dualist Advaita position also. But then what is it that enables him to approve of all of them? Because in a classical sense, last 800 years, the Advaitins, the Dvaitins, Vishishtadvaitins, they engage in tremendous debates. What is the correct interpretation of the Upanishads? And Advaitins will say, we have got it right. The ultimate best interpretation of Upanishads is non-dual Vedanta. And the Vishishtadvaitins, Dvaitins will say, no, it is dualistic. There is a God and you are separate from God and so on and so forth. Vishishtadvaitins will say you are part of the cosmic reality. Let me finish. So Sri Ramakrishna, his perspective is what is called Vijnana. That first of all, these are all attempts, as you said, mind only. These are all attempts by us to understand the infinite. Someone like Gaudapada, Shankaracharya's guru's guru, he goes to the extent of saying that Dvaitam icchanti kechana, Advaitam icchanti chapare, Dvaita Advaita vivarjitam tattvam. Somewhere it's there in the Gaudapada Karika. That some people prefer duality. Some grasp or understand non-duality. But the truth, I must admit, he's a non-dualist, committed non-dualist. The truth, I must admit, is beyond duality and non-duality. Because the duality and non-duality is also a product of our minds. Is like a framework we are trying to impose. Once this framework works, this is like paths. Once it works and you get it, you are happy to discard the frameworks. Vivekananda puts it this way: having realized the non-dual truth, you must be ready to limit yourself, as it were, and jump into a dualistic mode of thinking. And at any moment, let that go and go back to the non-dual limitlessness. So that's the Vijnana. I said just now that limitless consciousness, existence, bliss is a reality, this world is an appearance. Sri Ramakrishna said, yeah, you can say that. Or you can say, that is, he would call it Nitya, and this he would call the Leela. You go from this Leela to the Nitya, to eternal, to the transcendent, and back into the immanent, which is the play. Now for the enlightened one, this world, which we call the world for us ignorant folk, or the enlightened one will say it's like a dream, it's Maya. For Sri Ramakrishna, he says you can call it a play. We can't call it a play right now. It doesn't seem like a play to us. It seems like a hard reality to us. For the non-dualist, it seems like a dream. Sri Ramakrishna says equally you can go back and forth between the limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, and this one. Why call it a dream? Why call it false? Let's call it play, Leela. That's the Vijnana attitude. All right. Last one.
My name is Ram. I think it's an extension of my question is kind of, you have probably answered that one. And also it's an extension of the question where it's been asked. I think he asked between the dependency between consciousness and the objects.
And objects.
So I think what I'm getting at is basically this is ultimate goal is to kind of realize that I am that pure consciousness. We are in an ignorant state. But once you reach that enlightenment, does that mean does this all whatever we are seeing is the gameplay of the pure consciousness?
Yes, that is true. This manifestation, this manifold is a play. Call it a play. Call it a manifestation. Or if you are dualistic, it's a creation. Non-dualist will say there is no creation. It's just an appearance. Sri Ramakrishna says it's a play. But we must realize the truth behind it and then come back. In spiritual life, they say you not only should go away, you should come back also. So which is what we will do. We will go away now and we will come back. Please take this opportunity also. There's a counter where you can donate for this center. So tea time might be a good opportunity also. We'll come back and at noon and continue this discussion. The third theme, manifestation of the divinity within us.